Texas is one of those states that's looked to as progressive and leading the nation, honestly. And I had notes on here about, I wanted to mention that and the streak thing. I knew he would, but 250 days from today is November 7th. And, I was on LinkedIn this morning. Tim Smith's the state highway administrator for Maryland. They had 3 work zone crashes just yesterday. Terrible crash. Has pictures on there. Look it up. My advocacy, just put the phone down, pay attention, watch what you're doing, and watch out for all those people out there working. It's very dangerous. Texas, a state of 30 million people. The growth Mark talked about is just phenomenal that's happening here. And we have a great panel today. Little bit quickly about my background. I spent 30 years with the Virginia Department of Transportation. I was the Chief Deputy Commissioner, so kind of the role Mark had before he was promoted to this current role. And joined Deloitte about a year ago after retiring from VDOT after 30 years. We have a great panel. We have one member's running a little late, as was said, but I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, and then we're going to have some question and answer. The one thing I do want to say is that we don't really have time allocated for questions at the end of the panel. So what we're going to do is we'll be out in the hallway right out here. If anybody has any questions of the panelists, be available outside. But we have with us today Deanna Leggett, from Executive Vice President and the Chief Development Officer for DART. We have Caroline Mays, the Director of Modal Programs at TxDOT. We have Brooke Popp, the Chairwoman of the Texas Water Development Board, and Dottie Watkins, President and CEO of Cap Metro. But I'll let you all take just a few minutes to say a few words, and we'll get into the questions.
Okay, good morning. You guys didn't have coffee yet? Good morning. Thank you. My name is Caroline Mays, and I'm honored to work for TxDOT. Our big boss, Mark Williams, you just heard from him, so we're grateful that Info Day Texas is here in Austin this year. So a little bit about me. I have been with TxDOT 10 years, and my role has kind of changed progressively over the 10 years. I started my role at TxDOT as, a freight planner charged with developing the TxDOT freight planning program. And after that, my role kind of moved to, border planning, corridor planning. But now I oversee all of planning for TxDOT. That is just regular planning that I'll talk a little bit about later. But all the modes that Mark mentioned in his presentation: maritime, aviation, public transportation, and rail. So all of those are under my purview, and really so honored to do that within TxDOT by Texas. This is a great state, and you hear a lot more about, with the distinguished ladies talking here, a lot of what they do and the work that we do together, not just now, but also moving forward. So just excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, howdy, y'all. Howdy. I knew I got some good ags in the crowd today. I'm Chairwoman Brooke Popp of the Texas Water Development Board. I'm really excited to be here on this great panel. Look at these women. This is awesome. Yay. A little bit about myself. I've been with the state for 18 years, so obviously I started working when I was 10. I am the first woman chair of the Water Development Board since our inception in the 50s, so very proud of that. And we're tasked with making sure that the state has the water supply it needs to sustain its growth. Just a tiny little itty bitty mission for a state this big. My agency has less than 400 FTEs, and we push out billions of dollars to projects a year. So quite proud of that. I was told that we were gonna discuss our favorite food on the question. If I can see that correctly. My favorite food is going to gross y'all out right now. I really love Arby's. So when I'm on the road, I force my chief of staff to stop at Arby's whenever we can find one. And it's painful for him, but I love it. So with that.
I don't even know how I follow Arby's. So I'm Dee Leggett. I'm Executive Vice President, Chief Development Officer for Dallas Area Rapid Transit. I have been at DART 366 days. That is a year. If you've known what we're currently have going on at DART, that really does feel like dog years. But we do have a lot of exciting things. I look forward to talking through those projects with you. In my department, I handle capital planning, service planning, capital delivery, and then manage all of our real estate and right-of-way assets. And my favorite food is, if wine doesn't count, then it does count. Okay, good. So number one is red wine, Pinot Noir, to be specific. Number two is any food I don't have to prepare. So if I come home and my husband's cooked dinner, it's a great night.
All right, excellent. Good morning. I'm Dottie Watkins. I'm the president and CEO of Cap Metro here in Austin, Texas. I've been at Cap Metro for 28 years, so I too must have started when I was 10. I actually started as a part-time driver when I was a student here at the University of Texas, Oklahoma, and have been at Cap Metro pretty much my whole adult life. Absolutely love public transit, love solving that problem every day. We've got a project or two in our future as well. So a lot of fun stuff going on here in Austin. And my favorite food is the taco, like any taco, a breakfast taco, a fish taco, a beef taco. If it's a taco, it is the perfect food. I absolutely will make the case for the taco as the perfect food. So that's my favorite.
Great, great.
I feel bad. I need to add my favorite food. Anything seafood, okay? Anything seafood, including octopus. I'm gonna go speak or add.
Italian, that's my thing. And I've got a partner who lives in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Great Pinot Noir. So if anybody needs a hookup there, I'll get you.
I'll get his card after.
Yeah. Hey, the first question, we heard about the growth. We heard about the things that you all are responsible for, and you're a vital part to meeting the growth that's happening. So what are a few of the big projects or initiatives in your organization that you're really focused on to try to help the state move forward? Maybe start here with Carol.
Yeah, sure. You saw some of the things Mark kind of mentioned, and really our role at TxDOT is a lot. It's a lot of big ticket items. He talked about the Unified Transportation Program, $85 billion today. So it's going to $100 billion. And that really funds very, very significant projects throughout the state. One of the things we have right now, just to give you scale, we have $33 billion in construction today under TxDOT umbrella. So, if I were to list all the projects, it's astronomical. A lot of our construction projects are in the billions of dollars price tag. But I want to also mention that through my role, really, some of the exciting things is, one, the significant role planning plays in project development that Mark mentioned earlier. We have to plan in order to develop those projects so they can be ready for construction and be delivered. And then the second thing we're focusing on that's really exciting is bringing in the modes, modal integration, really integrating the modes so that we can move people and move goods. This is a fast-growing state. 30 million people. We're projecting 45 or 47 million people by 2050. So how do we continue to move people and facilitate moving goods? We have to look at multimodal transportation, how we plan, how we invest in that, but also how we integrate them. And some of the really key things I'm doing now in my new role is elevating public transportation planning within TxDOT, looking at really comprehensive approach, looking at all the modes, and some of the folks here really engaging them in a way we have not engaged before. Aviation, we're, focusing on motor integration with aviation, focusing on motor integration with rail, both on the passenger side, but also on the freight rail side. And then maritime, Mark mentioned that a big part of us is how do we connect and ensure that our ports can continue to grow and facilitate economic development in Texas. So those are some of the really the big things we're looking to do. And then finally, on the people side, really active transportation, bicycle, pedestrian. We have demographics, kids walking to school, older people, just people, and people want to live in cities and be able to walk or bike. So those are things we're also focusing on, a lot of investments going in there.
That's pretty fabulous. You know, it's quite humbling being on this stage with TxDOT. The dollars that you have out there on construction costs alone, $33 billion right now. Since our inception at TWDB, we've committed $33 billion to water infrastructure projects throughout the state, which seems like a really large number to the water industry. But when you look at what TxDOT's doing in the dollars and the people they have, it kind of makes me wonder, y'all, why aren't we committing the same dollars to water? The state is growing by almost 1,300 people a day. That's 650 baby Texans and 650 transplants probably from California. But why aren't we looking at water in the same way we're looking at roads, y'all? Not a single one of those new Texans is bringing a single drop of water to the state of Texas. I mean, water is literally a live and die issue for this state. We need to invest more in water. And I think the biggest project that I'm working on right now is the legislature, trying to bring awareness to them that we're not in a water crisis yet, but it's a coming, y'all. I mean, the state is growing too fast. We have very, very high demands in our municipal use. You know, our ag users need water. I was just in Midland, like 12 to 14 hours ago, I don't even know, talking to our oil and gas industry. They need water. Corpus Christi's trying to get a secondary source of water. Just trying to bring awareness that this is an issue and we need to be investing in the same way we've invested in TxDOT. And I'm very grateful for every dollar that goes to TxDOT because I have to be on those roads with my kids every day. And I will tell you, an 8:15 panel on a Thursday morning in Austin when you've got kid drop off is not easy. And so I'm very, very grateful for those good roads in the state of Texas. But we got to invest in water, y'all. And I could use everyone's voice in here. If you care about clean water for your kids, if you care about your toilets flushing, we got to invest in water. So that is what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to get the word out. And it's, the legislature is an interesting bunch of people. You know, our ledge meets every 2 years for 140 calendar days. And everyone always says they wish it met every 140 years for 2 calendar days. But I've got 89 days left to try to get the ledge to act on water. So wish me luck, y'all.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You know, not to pick on TxDOT on the stage, but you know, transit would like to see equivalent state investment in public transportation infrastructure as well. We do appreciate TxDOT's support of public transportation, but our metropolitan areas could use some state investment and not just tied to local and federal dollars. But you know, what big projects does DART have going on? I know I'm slated to talk a little bit about the Silver Line later, but I'll kind of provide some introductory remarks about the Silver Line. It's a $2 billion commuter rail project, 26 miles, that is currently under construction. It's design build. We started construction right around 2019, not knowing a pandemic was looming ahead. So lots of things to talk about the project challenges there in a few moments. But we're slated to open in 2025. At the same time, we're embarking on what my team's starting to call our next big thing. It's a massive system modernization program. It's at least going to be about a $2 billion effort. It's really focused on improving the passenger experience, improving the experience for our internal customers, whether it's the operability or maintainability of our infrastructure. It's not only getting our infrastructure to a state of good repair, but it's making sure our infrastructure is ready to advance and accept modern technology. And then it's looking at security, cleanliness, and operational efficiency of the system. It's focused on replacing our fleet with the next generation of equipment. We've got about 300 buses we need to buy. We have about 100 light rail cars we need to purchase, and we've got to replace the commuter rail equipment on the Trinity Railway Express. And all of those fleet replacements are going to require investment in our passenger amenities and our station platforms and our operating facilities and on our supporting infrastructure. So a lot of exciting things going on. This will be our first time that we've really focused on the system as a whole and not system expansion. So it's going to be a little bit of a major shift for how we deliver projects at DART and how we work with the private sector to design and deliver those programs.
That's really impressive. I see why you need that Pinot Noir at night.
And the money from TxDOT.
Yes.
Give us money, TxDOT.
I will double down on the ask for money for TxDOT, but also recognize that Caroline is like the most pro-transit person at TxDOT and is doing the work of a million people trying to help us get that a better integrated state DOT. So thank you, Caroline, for all your leadership on that. So here in Austin, we've got a couple of things going on. The biggest of which is we have partnered with the city of Austin to create a special delivery partner, a capital delivery partner we call the Austin Transit Partnership, to help us build $7 billion of transit expansion over the next couple of decades probably. There are a lot of pieces in that, including 2 bus rapid transit lines that are already under construction, improvements to our existing Red Line commuter rail, including a brand new station that's under construction at the Q2 soccer stadium where Austin FC plays. There's also a new commuter line to our east in the program, and a bit of light rail, about $5 billion worth of light rail planned that we're currently in the final throes of planning, I'm going to call it, that murky place where you figure out exactly what you can afford to do now that the pandemic has turned everything on its head. And then on top of that, we are undertaking a full electrification of our bus fleet, which means a whole lot more than just buying a bunch of buses. And we've all learned a lot about electricity and resiliency and how all of that is going to work. We're committed as an organization to be carbon neutral by 2040, but there's a lot of change in our future to get there. So we're excited, but maybe a little nervous.
Absolutely. And I want to say something on behalf of Caroline. We have spent a lot of time preparing for this, and her focus, what I heard repeatedly, was multimodal and making sure that the TxDOT system links up with the transit system. So I think she's right where you want her to be in her mind of where she wants to get with all that. So quickly around the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and we'll start down with Dottie this time, but which was my mother-in-law's name. So I really appreciate being here with you because I think
I'm glad you like your mother-in-law.
Yeah. But just sort of rapid fire on this. Like you've got the infrastructure law, right? So what do you think the impact on your organization, if you had to pick like one thing, what do you think the major impact of that would
I think
be?
the most immediate impact on transit organizations is that it enabled an increase in our formula funding for urban transit systems. And so we got an automatic kind of bump in what's out there. And, it's programmed for as many years as they can get it, but that, needing to keep that there. But then also the significant increase in discretionary grant programs, because anybody who's watched the at least on the transit side, all the DOT discretionary grant programs for the last decade, they've been 3 and 4 times overprescribed to the money that they had available. So I think, it feels a bit like a drop in the bucket when you look at all of the work that needs to be done, but it's very exciting to think that some of those dreams might actually be able to get funded.
Yeah, so for us, and focusing on some of those discretionary opportunities, we've looked at the priorities of the administration, and we're looking at figuring out how we can package our needs to meet those priorities. One example is the emphasis on Justice 40 communities. Obviously, our 13-member service area serves significant portions of Dallas and South Dallas, and there's a lot of Justice 40 communities in all of our service areas. So what we're trying to look at is how do we look at our project needs with the Justice 40 lens, both in terms of investing directly in these communities, but also making sure that all of our investments improve access to those communities.
And we're really excited about the IIJA funds. They're flowing through our state revolving funds, which I call our workhorse programs. They kind of catch all with infrastructure projects in the state of Texas. I will say everyone thinks that they're going to solve everything. All this money is just going to fix all our infrastructure woes. It is a drop in the bucket. All of my programs at the state are at least 5 to 7 times oversubscribed every single year. So although I am incredibly grateful for these extra dollars flowing through our state revolving funds, it's not enough. But I am very happy. 49% of those funds have to go out to rural and disadvantaged communities, and those have been a huge target of mine since becoming chairwoman. So excited to see where those dollars go. It's not going to solve everything, but again, always happy for every dollar that we get in water.
Yeah, and for us at TxDOT, certainly IIJA has significant impact. Of course, the expansion of existing programs alone, for instance, the Transportation Alternative Program, that has been expanded. As you mentioned, 250 million. Let me just give you an idea. We put out a call for projects for $250 million. Our pre-application, we got $1.75 billion of needs, and for 466 pre-application for a $250 million program. So you look at that, the oversubscription of just that one program, and as was mentioned here, also the discretionary, we're going after, like every state DOT, we're going after the discretionary grant, whether it's Christie or, grade crossing elimination, RAISE, et cetera, we're going after those grants, but also the impact is the new programs. The Navy program, carbon reduction, and some of these other new programs are a big impact to us because now we have to stand new programs that we didn't have before with the same staff and the same skill set. So there's definitely challenges there to be able to scale up very quickly while you're waiting for guidance from the feds. So a lot of that. But one thing I want to underscore is we're in the, kind of the realm or the emergency of multimodal planning and project integration and really working together. And I think IIJA, the biggest impact is opportunities to facilitate that multimodal investment, to see how we can leverage that and bring every dollar that we can into Texas, whether it's the MTAs, the rural transit agencies, all the other modes from rail to maritime, being able to do that. I think that's the biggest impact that we're seeing and the opportunity that really lies with IIJA.
I always think of infrastructure really as a system of systems, right? And we heard today about, transit, we've heard about water, and we've heard about this Texas roadway system and maritime and so forth. And, I definitely have to say to Brooke, like, I really, really appreciate you bringing up the water thing and the needs, because it is the kind of thing that gets overlooked. It's just, I was told 7,800 people work for me at VDOT, and I would always say we're at our best when we're invisible, right? When it just works. That's what people expect, and you don't care what goes into making it all work, but there's a lot that goes into it, but they just expect it to work. And this systems of systems is very important to everybody, whether it's water or transit or highway. I mean, the transit's not running without the road, right? And rail or road. But all of that needs to work together. So I guess when I think about the tremendous growth, I mean, one of the things that really struck me that Mark talked about was a 50% increase in new projects going out. And the thing is, I always think of this, it's, like Oprah when she had her show, and she's like, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. Every state's getting a car, right? Every state is getting that money, and the contracting community, I think, is going to be challenged. When I hear a 50% increase, is the contracting community, they'll say they're ready, but do they have the skilled labor? Can they get the materials? Can they get all those things? So the next thing I want to talk about is just from your perspective, with all this exciting stuff happening and tremendous growth here in Texas, what do you see as the greatest challenges in getting where you need to go over the next 5 to 10 years? And we'll start, Brooke.
Absolutely. I have lots of opinions about this. Workforce, y'all. The state needs to grow our workforce. I'm capped at 400 FTEs, which is like a tiny little pipsqueak agency compared to TxDOT, but we can't find enough engineers to work for us. A lot of our utilities can't find water operators. We are just slim pickings out there right now, and it's a problem. We really need to invest in our workforce. And as far as challenges, the cost overruns, delays, inflation, we're seeing it all. So I run basically what is a very small infrastructure bank. So I make commitments out to local political subdivisions so they can build the infrastructure they need, whether it's water supply, wastewater, or flood. I always say wastewater is the overlooked, less sexy sister of water supply, and that's very true. But everyone needs their toilets to flush, right, y'all? But it is it's just getting really expensive. So our communities are having to come back to us to get additional funds almost like every 6 months. And it's becoming a really big problem, and it's causing a delay in projects right now. So workforce and then like supply chain inflation issues, those are massive challenges.
Yeah, and she kind of stole my answer, but I think I would add on to the workforce issue. It's not just about workforce at DART. It's about workforce for the contracting community, for the consulting community. I've got to compete with all of these 3 ladies and getting you guys to bid on my jobs. And if you guys don't have the level of expertise to work for both of us at the same time, then one of us is going to win and one of us is going to lose in getting quality consultants and quality contractors to help us deliver our work. So not only do we as public agencies need to invest in our workforce and make sure that we're remaining competitive, we need the private sector to do that as well.
Yeah, you also stole my answer. I was going to say workforce, and I'll add one last layer to the workforce, which is the construction workforce. Because even if we can fund and we can design and engineer all these projects, we can't put them all literally in the ground at the same time if we don't have skilled trades and we don't have the labor available to do all of this. Most of the infrastructure that we're building these days is complicated and technical. And so you need folks with some real training. And so really being able to invest in that construction workforce, I think, is also very key.
Yeah, and just to add on that, workforce recruitment, retention is a big issue for us. As big as we are, we also have a lot of people retiring out of TxDOT, and replacing that knowledge base is one of our biggest challenges. How do you transfer that knowledge? Somebody that has been with the agency for 33 years and now, they leave. So we're having those challenges within TxDOT. And then also, I mentioned IIJA and some of the other requirements. I didn't even mention technology. That's a big focus of this new administration, but also for TxDOT, the skill sets required. And then to push out the projects, we have to have folks within the agency that can manage those projects, to review them, to make sure, going to to inspect bridges. Those are generally done by TxDOT folks. So again, the issues of workforce is huge, but also for the contracting community. Right now, some of our bids, some of them we don't get bids, or we get one. And then some of them we get, and the inflation costs 50% of our engineers' estimates. So, we are spending more and we're buying less. Essentially, that's what's happening today. All that money that we have, we can only fund so many projects because we have a lot of cost overruns that now we're having to use more of that money to fill the gap. And then part of the issue too is some of our projects are slipping in schedule because of workforce issues on both sides of the equation. So that's a huge component of really big challenge for us. And highway construction, supply chains. Buy America, it's a real issue that we hear all the time. Those requirements are impacting and project schedules to be able to get those materials for construction projects, supply chain issues, cost issues. So a lot of things really are kind of in the mix of what we're facing right now. And our state is a huge state. The needs are very vast throughout the state, and to be able to scale and really complete a lot of those projects, sometimes it makes it very challenging for us as a state DOT.
Yeah. And I was surprised that it took to the last to mention the Buy America. I think everybody here is in favor of, Buy America and what it's about. But getting from where we are today to where is envisioned it's a bit of a challenge right now. It definitely needs to be addressed. And as I said earlier, Texas is not a standalone island. You've got the entire country facing these same things. So that workforce, many of the consultants, many of the contractors, but particularly your consultants, they work all around the country and they're stretched everywhere. And it's a real challenge.
Can I add one more thing about workforce? And this is just my humble opinion. My chief of staff's probably going to have a panic attack whenever I say this is just my opinion. We need to change or rebrand or change the dialogue on trade schools.
Yes.
Hear, hear.
Yes. Not everyone has to go to college, y'all. I've got a son who is really good with his hands, hates academics. Like trade school would be great for him. He could make a great living and have a great quality of life and really help his community. We need to make it more appealable, and we need to put more resources into our trade schools.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, you mentioned technology, and I think about you know, my case. Everybody in my position that had ever worked for VDOT left, and they go to a consulting engineer contractor, and you know, I specifically decided because I think a future piece of transportation is not going to be filled by those traditional engineering firms, but it's going to be digital. It's going to be digital twins. It's going to be artificial intelligence, machine learning, and that's something that Deloitte and other firms like that bring. And I just think that you all are seeing that growth in data and how you use that and to do things more efficiently. And to Mark's point, your point about what you're seeing with estimates and really like projecting that to make sure those long range plans are really a plan that is real takes a lot more sophistication today than it has in the past. So one of the things I wanted to ask you all, just as we've talked about as system of systems, is how do you all collaborate, and what do you think sort of optimal collaboration in bringing all this multimodal system of systems and the water systems and all, how do you make sure that as a new transit line comes in, that creates maybe some transit-oriented development, higher growth around there, that demands water supply and sewer supply. TxDOT has to provide the roadway network so that people can maybe get to a park and ride lot at that transit-oriented development. How do you make sure that all that collaboration takes place, and how would that look like in an optimal world in your mind? So I don't know, any volunteers for where to start with that?
Well, I'll start. I think one, in terms of, you know, and this is true with whether it's local governments in the room, agencies like Cap Metro or DART or state agencies, you know, with the amount of growth that is coming to Texas, if we aren't thinking about building resilient and sustainable infrastructure, whether it's water, roadways, or public transportation, we are going to fail our citizens and those citizens moving here. So if we don't figure out how to collaborate at all levels, then we're going to miss a significant opportunity, and we're going to be some of the states that are, you know, moving here, right? They're moving here because of who we are, and if we don't figure out how to handle that growth in a sustainable way, we're going to fail those that are here and those that are moving here. So it's really just we've got to figure it out. I don't think we've mastered it. I think there's a lot of opportunities where we work alongside TxDOT, and I think transit has a really strong history of there are no new things that we're doing. So what Dottie's doing, I want to learn from. What we're doing, Dottie wants to learn from, and I think we collaborate really well, especially with our, you know, municipal metropolitan transit agencies. I see VIA is here, so we have a really great collaborative working relationship. But we've got to do more, and that's got to expand beyond our own individual modal silos.
Yeah, I was just about to say we can't operate in silos. We're destined to fail if we do that. TxDOT works very well with the Water Development Board. We have 16 regional water planning groups and 15 regional flood planning groups throughout the state, and TxDOT sits or has a representative on each one of those. So we hear from TxDOT their concerns with, you know, us putting pipes in the ground, and we gotta make sure we don't bust open a road with water. So we work, I think, very well with TxDOT, but it's complicated. It's a system in systems. It's not an easy task, but we got to do it.
And for TxDOT, we are one of the biggest economic development agency for the state of Texas, and that means we have to collaborate, we have to partner, we have to engage pretty much everybody in Texas. Public sector, everybody sitting here, private sector, all the other industries. You know, in my case, part of my role at TxDOT the last 10 years or so, really engaging from, you know, binational with Mexico, with the border crossings and, you know, all the stakeholders along the border on the trade side, on the people movement side, the ports, you know, huge component there, the railroads, and then also, you know, engaging like the energy sector, a lot of safety issues there and some of the, you know, needs there, engaging the metro areas, so we have a slew of stakeholders who engage, the MPOs, the transit agencies, you name it. It's really at the core of what we do is collaboration, partnership, and engagement. If we fail to do that, we cannot achieve what we're doing. We can't plan, build anything in a vacuum without collaborating with all the other stakeholders and communities, around the state. And I think moving forward, one of the things I've, trying to do in my new role is, for instance, engaging the MTAs, the two of them that are sitting here, to make sure that we as TxDOT don't focus just on the system we fund. We focus on the entire comprehensive transportation system within the state, regardless of who funds it. When people are traveling, they don't care who is responsible for what. They just want to get from point A to point B. And an example I always use is in the movement of freight or supply chains. When something is coming, it came from China on probably got on a truck, got on a ship, got on another truck, or got on a rail. It doesn't matter how it gets there. It's really, so we have to make that seamless as an industry and not focus on, okay, this is all we do and we don't talk to the other person. So we got to make sure that we're collaborating in a much more comprehensive, but a much more purposeful engagement moving forward.
Yeah. And it does strike me that, everybody up here is really about delivering some type of infrastructure. But I always think to myself, it's really not about delivering a road or a water system or a transit system. It's really about the quality of life. It's about the quality of life you deliver that allows people to do what they want to do and how they want to do it and so forth. And so we've got a little less than 4 minutes left. So what I thought we would do in the last, maybe a minute each is, is there something that you'd like people to know, or something that you think is a project that's out there, whatever it might be? But Dottie, sorry.
There's a lot. So I would say that I echo the concerns about being able to get good bids on stuff, right? There's so much going on. And so, I would encourage, especially the consultant community and contractor community that's here, we really need people talking. We are focused a lot these days on putting out sort of advanced information, the request for information kind of process, hey, everybody, look over here. We're going to do this soon. Take a look at it and tell us what you think, because we need people. We need that input. I think especially with the inflationary pressures we're all seeing with building our projects, we need to know as early as possible what are the best ways we can get this thing delivered. And so I think it is really that early engagement. While it used to be kind of, I think, on the business development folks to go make sure they had a relationship and knew when something was coming out, I think we need some of the more technical folks to also be engaging a little earlier with the public sector folks, just so that we can be smarter and better. And because time is money, man. Yeah. We got to get this stuff built.
Yeah, so, I think I would touch on kind of what transit looks like in a post-pandemic world is much different than what transit looks like pre-pandemic. And that's really because, we've got to build a system that riders want to return to, which means that system has to integrate into our communities better. We've really got to focus on what the passenger experience looks like. And maybe success of public transportation shouldn't be about measuring it by ridership, but measuring it by impact.
Great point.
You mentioned that, transportation is economic development, economic driver. Water is economic development, y'all. If a community doesn't have a safe, accessible water supply, businesses will not move in. Your tax base won't grow. The schools won't flourish. Water is everything. There is no Texas miracle without Texas water. I am really excited about this session and hopefully getting some more funding for water. But, again, I kind of feel like I'm beating my head on the wall. Like, water is everything. Water is life. Let's put some more people and resources to water all throughout the state. It's a huge economic driver as well. So with that, and this is not me picking on TxDOT. I promise, I love TxDOT. I just really, really love the water industry, and I feel like it's a life and death issue for this state that's not being clearly addressed. But we need to, because it's going to be really expensive when we don't have any water.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not picking on TxDOT. That just shows you that transportation, multimodal transportation is fundamental to everything. You talked about going to Midland. How did you get to Midland? How do you get exactly? But it's, yeah. So,
Southwest.
yes, multimodal transportation is so critical to everything we're talking about here in order to be able to provide water, in order to be able to deliver goods, in order for people to go to school, all of those stuff. And I'm talking about all modes, including transit. It's so fundamental for us as TxDOT to stay competitive and be able to address that in a way that we've not done in the past and every mode has to be part of the equation moving forward. So that's really what I want to leave with you. And the last thing, Ken, is part of TxDOT's commitment, we're going to be doing the first ever statewide multimodal comprehensive transit plan, which is going to look at all transit modes. And that's the first time TxDOT is going to lead that. And we're going to include the MTAs that are here and others via and the Houston Metro to be part of that, the entire system, to understand what the needs are and what strategies do we need to be, facilitating moving forward to really ensure that everybody in Texas has access to whatever mode of transportation they want to use, how they want to use it, how they want to pay it. That's really the goal moving forward. So appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to what was said at the beginning. As a father of 3 daughters, it is awesome to have 4 ladies up here in real leadership roles and setting such a great example. So with that, I want to thank Dottie and Dee and Brooke and Caroline for your time. And we're going to be outside if anybody has any further questions, but just great job, y'all. Thank you.